Hello everyone and welcome to the Winging It F1 podcast, Imola preview, Emilia Romagna preview. F1's returning to Imola for the first time since 2006. I know Freddie's very excited. I think Nigel is too. They're both joining me. How are you fellas?
I'm very excited. I think Nigel is too.
Yeah, I have to say that now, don't I?
How are you, Adam?
Yeah, I'm good. You can tell by Nigel's voice tone that he is absolutely jumping up and down with excitement. Yeah, for this race. And yeah, we've got a lot of news to talk about that kind of filtered through in the last week, as well as obviously looking ahead to the race. But just a quick reminder that you can follow us on Twitter at Winging It F1 or our personal Twitters. Mine is at Adam Dickinson01 if you want to see tweets about rugby. Freddie's is at Freddie Coach 1999 to see tweets about Taskmaster, and Nigel's is at Nigel C. Journo to see tweets about why he told you so and which driver is overrated this week. Get straight into it.
How long have you been writing that intro, Adam? It's brilliant.
Yeah, I thought I was presenting the race review on Monday, so I got it ready for then. Moving swiftly on. So the first bit of news is one that's just dropped, and Toto Wolff has commented on George Russell's situation. Obviously, it seemed like he was completely secure in his Williams seat. They were quick to sign him down for 2021, or announce him as their driver for 2021. Then Williams got taken over, and now it's looking like he might well not be in the seat. There's been a lot of rumours that Perez is in the discussion for it. I think, Freddie, you've got the most information on this. So what's Wolff said?
Yeah, Wolff has been quoted by motorsport.com and Autosport this morning, Wednesday morning, which I'm recording this, as saying that he thinks the decision is basically going to be made, is what we can imply from what he says. I don't think the decision comes down to his driving skills about George Russell being removed from Williams. It's more probably an overall political decision and commercial decision. And that kind of lends itself to the belief that George Russell has been removed from the 2021 Williams lineup in favour of Sergio Perez. And Toto Wolff, as Russell's manager, is there to comment on that. And he did also comment on it's a bit of a shame and all of that kind of stuff, because his performance on Sunday was very good. He completely outclassed Latifi definitely that weekend, and deserves to be a solid midfield driver, deserves to have a solid midfield car underneath him, and he doesn't, and that kind of thing. So Perez would be good at Williams, but at the expense of Russell instead of Latifi. If you're going to have Perez, it is a commercial decision.
Nigel, what are your thoughts on this? Obviously, you and I think all of us thought it might be a possibility that Perez would go to Red Bull.
Yeah, I still believe that's going to be the case. I think Russell will stay at Williams and Perez will go to Red Bull.
And wider thoughts on this, or do you not have any? Or
I don't have any, because he's going to stay. He's going to stay at Williams.
Yeah, I think it's strange to even be thinking about this. And Perez is kind of doing to Russell what Vettel did to him in his team, that he thought he was locked down to a contract, and then another driver's come through and taken his seat. I think it would be a massive shame not to have Russell on the grid, and whereas with the Racing Point Aston Martin situation, there was a bit more, Stroll's been coming on well this season, and it kind of felt like there was a bit more, maybe this is kind of the best race decision with this one in terms of Russell and Latifi. Latifi's not a bad driver. I think he's had a decent rookie season in a difficult situation, but Russell has, completely outclassed him this year. And I think it'd be quite a travesty, really, not to have him on the grid.
I think the travesty for me is just this leave Hülkenberg as the only option for Red Bull. And I think Perez would be a step above Hülkenberg as an option for Red Bull.
That's a
I agree
opinion.
with that.
Well, I think when they were teammates, Perez was better. and Perez has just been in a year in F1. Simple.
Oh wait, you said Perez is better than Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I agree with
I didn't say
that.
Latifi should go to Red Bull or something.
I've lost my mind this morning. I don't even know what we are.
But hey, let's put Latifi in Red Bull. Why not? Let's absolutely mess this up completely. Who else should we put in? Let's resurrect Tazio Nuvolari. Actually, he'd be quite good.
Put Albon in it.
Oh, whoa, what?
So yeah, I think that's kind of an unfolding story, and we'll have to see. Obviously, there's been no official announcement yet, and we'll just have to follow that. But it's strange, kind of. I think, as we said before, that the driver market seemed pretty settled when we spoke about it in, I think, August, and there was kind of a few things around Racing Point and Hassan Alfa Romeo and Red Bull second seat, but it kind of looked pretty settled. Or for the seats that were open, it felt like there's one or two options for these seats, whereas it's kind of got more open, which is very strange.
Yeah,
not enough
on
seats
Sunday.
Pardon?
There's not enough seats in F1, Nigel said, and I completely agree with him.
Yeah, definitely.
We need 26.
Yeah. I mean, if Russell doesn't have a seat on the grid next year, even though Toto Wolff said he would last week, it's just so wrong that a talent like him won't be on the grid. The same goes with someone, say, if Perez loses his seat as well, which I don't think he will. It shouldn't be happening. Well, we shouldn't even be in this situation where great drivers, probably top 10 drivers on the grid, might not be in the field next year, all because there's not enough seats and because of these financial and political games that go on in F1 all the time.
Just on Perez, going to Williams would be quite a step down, I think, from where he's been over the last few years, really. Where
he's got nothing to gain from it, which is why I don't think
he'll down for the future. He can bring a good financial bedding for that team, a team that's going to gather around him, he will lead that team into a regulation change. And not the last regulation change, but the regulation change before that, Williams went from 8th or 9th best car to 3rd best car, and they got a pole position that year, meaning it was Mercedes engine, but it wasn't all Mercedes engine in 2014. So I think as a bedrock to be with, I think Williams, if any team, would be one to sack off 2021 and put money into 2022. So if you're looking really ahead, then Williams is a good idea. A 1-year contract at Red Bull, where you might be pushed aside if they decide to get Pierre Gasly again or do mess around with another driver, who knows, where you're going to play second fiddle to Max Verstappen. As a driver with serious future ambitions, Williams can actually be seen as quite a good prospect. As an immediate success and then potential to maybe get to snipe at some podiums, Red Bull is also there. And it really depends on what Perez really thinks from himself. I mean, he's still, he's 30? I think.
Yeah.
He's got time to build a team. And I think Williams is there for that.
I don't think it is. With the investors they've got, Doralton Capital, the structure of Williams, I don't see them progressing too much. And I think Perez, he's got nothing to lose by going to Red Bull, because if he does go to Williams, it will take at least probably 2, 3, 4 years perhaps to get back towards the front. So I think he should look for success at Red Bull and go for it, because even if he does get dropped from Red Bull at the end of next year, if he goes, he could always go back to Williams anyway, wasn't he? Because he's that good. He's that good of a driver, and he brings the sponsors.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'd be careful about making any projections, considering we don't know how the driving market's going to look next week or next month, let alone kind of the start of next season. I think going to the end of 21, it could be totally different, because we never would have foreseen a lot of the drivers that are currently jobless or in doubt for 2021 would be based off their performances.
I think you can definitely say that there will be an an argument to at least have Perez in contention for the majority of seats. And the fact that we're here discussing George Russell being ousted from Williams for Sergio Perez next year, if he is dropped from Red Bull, depending on how his Red Bull season has gone, it probably won't have gone badly. There'll probably still be room to discuss Sergio Perez in the majority of teams for 2022, I'd imagine.
Unless
he goes to Haas.
There's not many drivers, or very few in F1, where they have an option of a good seat or a seat towards the back, or they take the seat towards the back. They always go for the fastest car and what they can go for. Well,
I think it's important that Perez does get a seat in kind of long-term future, because I do think if he is out even for a year for F1, that could be terminal. People forget about drivers very quickly in a lot of cases. Look at, if it weren't for the situation with COVID this year, Hulkenberg would be nowhere near the grid. And obviously it's a bit of a different situation there with their financial backing. I think I'd be inclined to agree that going to Williams, getting a long-term thing set up would be best. But equally, Perez will want to back himself. Will want to put himself in a car that he knows he can fight for podium, potentially wins. I think against Verstappen, even for Perez, that's going to be extremely tough. I think that, going into Verstappen's team that he's been in for 5 years now, it will be then. I still think, there's a considerable risk for him going there, that he could come out with reputational damage. But,
it's a risk worth taking.
I'd agree with that. Should we move on, unless either of you have anything to add on that?
Keep Russell on the grid.
It's a good thing to add. It's a good thing to add.
Yeah. And we'll continue to keep up to date with that story as it goes. Another piece of news is the 2021 calendar has been announced.
It's been leaked.
Provisionally.
Provisionally leaked.
So there's, I guess the standout is the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, although we knew that was coming anyway.
Races won.
The Vietnamese and Dutch Grand Prix will also be reinstated, and we'll get to see that. I'm excited about that, particularly Holland. I'm not so sure about Vietnam. I'm kind of not really all in on that track, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's going to be 23 races. There's apparently no plan B as to if the world still isn't righted or near being righted. But what do you both make of the calendar?
So the no plan B is F1 needs to have this amount, 23 races, because it can't afford another season like this year, or else they will be in huge financial trouble. Already this year, F1 has lost a lot of money, I think. And if they have another season like this, they have to pay the tracks and the contracts and stuff. I think the sport could be in big trouble. So that's what it means by plan B, but no plan B. But I do think the tracks that we've seen this year that have returned or are new to the calendar, they will be there as a backup, probably. So, yeah. One thing I will say is 23 races. It's a bit too many for me. I don't know about you guys. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, probably in an ideal world, although, it's better if it gets F1 righted, and then, that's the price I'm willing to pay.
We've got 2 triple headers. Monza, Spa and Zandvoort, not in that order. I can't remember the order. That's a triple header, which is going to round off the European season. I think obviously they've put Zandvoort a bit later because they definitely want fans there. And there's another triple header which is going to be quite a long one, which is Singapore, Sochi, and Suzuka. Oof. And that is going to really hit home for the teams, I think. And I don't think that's very nice at all for the teams. I mean, they've done triple headers as a last resort for this season, but they said in 2018 they'd never do them again. And then they've done one traversing Russia and the majority of Asia. So that seems a little bit stabby in the backy from Formula One. I think the main reason we've got a calendar with no plan B as this one is that Formula One thinks they can race anywhere with their COVID restrictions now. They think they've got it all under control if the teams and if Formula One personnel is flying out in the right way. And the media are kept in their place. Every team is kept in their place. Every driver is kept in their place, and everyone's tested consistently and regularly. Then Formula One thinks it's in a very good situation, and for the most part, it is. We've had only a few COVID tests, to be honest, from the start of the season. So if Formula One can do that on a more global scale, I mean, it's a step up, but it's something that they can look into, and I think they'll be taking a lot of FIA guidance from other series. I mean, Formula E will have already started at that point and will have been to Chile and Saudi Arabia. And WEC is going to Bahrain, it's going to Bahrain soon. And Formula One's going to Turkey and Bahrain and all of that. So it is flying around a bit now. So they've got the confidence that they can do flyaways. Yeah. And whether fans are going to be there or not is really dependent on the current world situation at certain places. Look at Portimao, is fine for fans there, pretty much. But we still don't have fans at Turkey or Bahrain this year. So I think Formula One is confident they can do it anyway. I think street tracks is a bit of a push, though. I'm not really sure about a city centre race to start off the season.
I think with the COVID, you mentioned confidence there. My worry would be overconfidence. We've we've already seen people around it aren't as kind of cautious as they were, at the start of racing. And then if you increase that to 23 races rather than the 16 we have this season, and it'll be another year. I think there will, there is part of me that's slightly worried about that, and seen incidents already. But the question I really wanted to ask was, do you think this calendar is better than this season's calendar? Which would you prefer to have?
Oh, what a horrible choice. I'm gonna go with.
I like this season.
That question, Adam.
I mean, it is in the top. You've had all morning to prepare for it, so
I'm gonna go with the next year's one.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know why, just pure instincts.
Freddie, do you say this year's?
Yeah, I quite like this year's. I mean, I think that if it was every year this year, then there wouldn't be a novelty to it. But I quite like the novelty factor. And there's some tracks that I've missed this year. I've missed Interlagos. I've missed Montreal. And I think you can only really have Monaco without COVID, because otherwise, what's the point? I think I quite enjoyed the randomness of this year. We've had Mugello. I would never have considered Mugello as a Formula One track. I think I definitely wrote off on this podcast Turkey coming back, and here it is. So I think, it's a kind of sort of a mini dream calendar for a lot of people this year. It's if I could make a calendar for a game or something, I would put these tracks on. So I'm happy.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I think the point about it kind of this year being a novelty, would that wear off if we had it 2 seasons in a row, is a good one. I go towards this year's, I think, as well. Just feels a bit nicer. It feels like there's a bit less dead weight on the calendar. But yeah, it's a thank you. Interesting one.
I mean, I've spoken on this podcast a lot about, I'm a lover of the history of the sport, and I really like the mystical factor of Formula One in the past, and you get that by going to tracks that have got a kind of old school feel to them. We're going to Imola this weekend. We've been to Mugello, which is an old track. It's a bike track. It's not really what you'd expect, but it's got that sort of fairy tale side to it that you don't get from Yas Marina and that kind of thing.
Still going there though.
Still going to Yas Marina. It's a good point.
I think the point about Monaco is a good one as well. And I quite like the idea of them kind of trying to recreate Monaco without the fans by just like going around an estate in Barnsley or something to the Monaco Grand Prix in exile or whatever.
I don't know if you saw Kim Kardashian's tweet last night.
How have we gone on to this?
Because it's caused a bit of a meme. It was me and a few. Here we are. Kim Kardashian Island is trending. I'll just find it. After 2 weeks of multiple health screens and asking everyone to quarantine, I surprised my closest inner circle with a trip to a private island where we could pretend things are normal just for a brief moment of time. And that's got nearly as many retweets as it does likes in the nearly 40,000 retweets as a meme now. Because people are just like, oh, look at that. And why don't you just do that for Monaco? We can just take some of our closest friends and family, quarantine for 2 weeks, and then surprise them with a trip to Monaco. And that's what it will be. It will be the rich and famous will have to quarantine for 2 weeks to go and stand in a paddock.
Surprise them with a Grand Prix to Monaco. It's like, oh yeah, we're just going to do some skiing, and then they're like, surprise, it's a Monaco Grand Prix. And then the drivers know, they just think they're, in Monaco for, a socially distant party or whatever. And then it's like, oh wait, there's a pit lane. The other things that jumped out, I mean, you mentioned the triple header, Singapore, Russia, Japan, but then either side of that, there's the Dutch Grand Prix and the Mexican Grand Prix. So like, kind of even outside of those 2 weeks, then yeah, it's massive travel. And the stretch before that, you've got Britain, Hungary, Belgium, Italy, Holland, which is a brilliant run of kind of classic circuits. And before that, you've got Austria as well, which kind of it's a classic circuit, but with kind of purpose-built racetrack. But yeah, that run I think really jumps out as something really nice to enjoy. So moving on to some other bits of driver market news, one that came through last week and one that's come through this week. The first one is Haas have got rid of both their drivers for 2021 in one of the less surprising, Nigel was clearly very sad, one of the less surprising news. I mean, I'd said that I thought Magnussen would stay, but I wasn't massively surprised. It seemed like all the momentum was, for two new drivers coming in. What does this mean for Haas? And then do you think either of the drivers will be on the grid for 21?
It's bye-bye to Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen, I think. It's been a good time. Kevin Magnussen got a podium on his debut. Hasn't been close since.
Romain Grosjean got one in his second race with Lotus, not with Renault.
I can't think of a driver who scored a podium on the debut and not scoring it again. Probably in the 50s it happened, but definitely not in the last 20, 30 years, I don't think. I think it's the right decision from Haas to get some new blood in the car, although I don't think it's the driver's fault as to why Haas are underperforming. I think it is purely the car, and Romain Grosjean has spoke quite well. He's literally said what has been wrong with the car. He's spilled the beans, as they say, last weekend. So, yeah, the new driver lineup, it's neither a good thing or a bad thing, I'd say. But they've had their time in F1, so yeah. I don't know where I went with that.
I liked he put obviously he announced the post on Facebook and Instagram, I think, and then he put up a tweet afterwards saying it's the first time I've had 100,000 likes on a post in the first 24 hours or something, and it's announcing my retirement. Not sure what to think about that. So I thought that was quite good. It's also his 9 lives have run out. I think it's either this year or next year is his 9th season, so there's quite a nice headline writer's dream there. Freddie, what are your thoughts on it?
I think this is his 9th season, if you count 2009.
Yeah, it is.
It's weird because they're both kind of stalwarts on the grid, but also not at the same time. And Romain Grosjean particularly is such a weird driver. He's so fast sometimes, but he's also not. And it's just Romain, you could have been great, but you weren't. And you've been on borrowed time for years. And it's a bit of a shame because it's a whole massive what could have been, particularly for Haas as well, with him at Haas. I mean, he went to Haas in 2016, following a very good 2015 year at Lotus. He got a podium in that year in that dog of a car, which is being looked after by bailiffs, and went there basically saying, yeah, maybe I can go to Ferrari. And everyone was like, yes, maybe he can go to Ferrari. And unfortunately, now that whole narrative has failed. And it is a shame to see them go, but I'm really not surprised. And I'm more excited about what's coming, if I'm honest. I think Haas do need a rethink, a refresh. And
I don't think the drivers is the refresh they need, though, Freddie. I really think it's behind the scenes,
do you think? Do you not
engineers and things.
I think engineers can be spurred on by new drivers after they every week have to rebuild a car and have two drivers crashing into each other. Do you think they can now? They think, oh,
that hasn't happened this season, though, has it?
It hasn't happened this season, no. But like, it's a hangover that is known about, and a hangover that is going to sit with you. It's like, oh, these drivers are just not here for the team, really. You look at that with Kevin Magnussen, you think, oh, these drivers are just here to be laughed at on Netflix now. And that's it. And if you bring in a new driver to an engineer can go, oh, this is really cool. We're quite excited about this. And there's a bit of a spur there. Obviously, if they crash out in the first race, that's going to change. But if they bring in a new person and they're promising, then the motivation skyrockets, surely.
Maybe. I'll crash by another driver.
I just think whoever does come into the team, it's the strongest rumours at the moment is that it will be Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. They won't improve the team with what they have. I don't think Grosjean and Magnussen are as bad as some people think. I do think the Haas is just one of the most unpredictable and undrivable cars in F1 history, and I don't blame the drivers on that.
I think
there's an easy reason for that, and that's because they've bought second-hand parts from Ferrari and then have tried to put them together and don't know what they've done, really. I hate to say it, but yeah. It's like they've got, here's a suspension that we haven't built. How does it work? I don't know. Put it on the car. Okay. And that's it, really. At least with Racing Point, they've understood the car they've bought.
That's nothing to do with the drivers, though, is it?
No, you're right. It's not to do with the drivers.
I think not necessarily there'll be an increase straight away. You know, there might be a step back, but
no, of course.
If you bring in two new drivers, then I think it's the potential increase that kind of is more would excite me more. You know, the fact it feels like we know what the ceiling is for Haas with Grosjean and Magnussen, and it's not a particularly high one. Whereas you know, you bring in two new drivers, and you know there's you know a chance that you can increase that. You know, you've got potential. You can work on them. You can work the car around them. And another thing Gunther Steiner said is that with the salary cap coming in, then hopefully it will be a bit of a buyer's market for engineers, and you know all of that with teams having to downsize. You know, kind of looking to recruit there. So that's kind of what I imagine they'll be looking at. Yeah, I thought that too. Grosjean sits. Oh, I was just going to say Grosjean sits 28th in the list of all-time starts, but that's not really very interesting. Freddie carrying
28. That's higher than I thought it would be. From what 800 F1 drivers.
Ahead of Graham Hill, Lauda, Jacques Villeneuve, Ayrton Senna, Mika Hakkinen.
Hakkinen.
He's one. Yeah,
fair enough.
He's by the end of the season, he should beat Ralf Schumacher, Hans Hulkenberg, and Jacques Lafitte.
Jacques Lafitte, damn. Obviously, we've got lots of open source parts coming into Formula One for 2022. I don't know if they're bringing it in for 21, but there's going to basically be an open server where they have to upload their designs. So that could be interesting for a team like Haas in the future.
Yeah.
We have spoken a lot about Haas on the many podcasts, so we'll move on to another team that we've spoken at length about. AlphaTauri, they have confirmed, or Helmut Marko has confirmed, Pierre Gasly will stay in the team, which is the most deserved driver retention, I think, on the grid.
Yeah, wait till Hamilton signs his new contract, Adam, then he might want to retract that statement.
Well, he hasn't yet. So when he does, then I'll say it again.
Is Hamilton going to sign for AlphaTauri alongside Pierre Gasly?
I'll DM Gasly saying, sorry, your award for most deserved driver retention has been rescinded. It's gone to Hamilton. I'm sure.
And then he'll block you.
Yeah, and then he'll send me a picture of the Italian Grand Prix trophy that he got, which should have been Hamilton's, and he'll say, well, rescind this, and I won't be able to.
You won't want to.
That's one seat locked down. Obviously, Tsunoda's doing a test immediately after Imola, and they have said that they want to get him in a practice session, and it feels like the momentum is building for him to be in the seat. Just kind of, what are your thoughts on this?
Have Red Bull not learnt? Don't fast forward drivers all the time. They're fast forwarding drivers. So
give them a chance is what I like to say.
Give them all a chance.
I think it's
give
the
them
right
a chance
decision.
and then sack them. And be like, oh, look at that. So it doesn't matter that we've got rid of him.
Don't do the job, he gets sacked.
He's the most impressive driver on the grid this year.
Sorry, what was your question? What my thoughts on Gasly staying at AlphaTauri?
Yeah, and kind of the AlphaTauri situation.
Yeah, I think it's the right thing for Gasly to keep his options open for 2022 if he does want to move out of the Red Bull program. And if he does have Albon as his teammate potentially next year, if he beats him, then that will put him in a great position in the driving market. And he's still young, of course. He's still got plenty of years to come. So I think it's the right thing to do, and he just has to continue performing like he is, whether it is to beat Albon next year or to beat Tsunoda if Tsunoda is promoted.
Yes, I was hoping Freddie would jump in there, but he's just kind of sat there with his arms folded.
I just had my kind of rant about don't ruin Tsunoda's career because he's really promising. I'm scared. Basically, I already said that. But Gasly has been very good this year, and it's a shame that Red Bull didn't work out for him, because if you look at his Toro Rosso season from 2018, he had peaks and troughs, but the peaks were there. And if you look at his 2020 season at AlphaTauri, it's only been the peaks. So he's improving as a driver. Definitely, hand over fist, all of that. But because he's got on the wrong side and trodden a few toes last year, as well as not performing, to be fair, he's sacked off his chance at returning to Red Bull when he's performing well.
Isn't that the same as for what Fernando Alonso is? And people say Alonso, deserved that and stuff with Ferrari and that.
Deserved what? Deserved to not be there.
Deserved not to, yeah.
Because he was a bit of a prick.
Yeah. That's the same situation as I see it. Yes, there are different ages, different experience, but to me, it's the same thing.
I think Alonso has been a bit worse than Gasly. I don't know.
We only see.
You're right.
Yeah, we only see what's on TV and the broadcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely pleased that Gasly will remain on the grid. So I think it would be a real loss for him not to be there. It kind of feels like all the momentum with Tsunoda, which, where does that leave Albon? But that's a debate for another day. So I think, it's interesting.
Why don't we talk about it now? Do you think Albon will be out of Formula One?
We still got one word answer. Freddie, do you think Albon will be out of F1 next year?
No, I think Tsunoda won't be.
Nigel, do you think not? And then he said, do you think Nigel will be? Do you think Albon will be out of F1 next year? Or not on the grid next year?
Yeah, I think he'll be out of F1, yeah.
Okay, I actually agree with you just because of the way things shaping up, and all the seats are being filled up. I don't think that's the right thing. I think he should have a seat on the grid, but I don't think he will. I think it's a risk with Tsunoda, but equally, there's not much is certain in F2. I think if he's in the position and they think he's good enough, then move him up. That's why.
If Tsunoda has the chance, he's got to take it, because if he stays in F2, he might have a bad year, and then he won't get into F1 ever. He's got to take the chance, whether it works out or not.
Isn't it?
We'll see. Yeah.
If Tickton was in his position a couple of years ago this year, then he would have had a super license. He was a few points off a super license, and it is a shame. He would have been directly into F1 in the Toro Rosso, but he wasn't.
Oh God!
Yeah,
imagine. That's a good thing we weren't doing a podcast 2 years ago, and if Dan Tipton was in F1,
he's closer than ever.
I think there's still next year. There's going to be a lot of good drivers still on the grid. I'd say Lundgaard, Schwartzman. There's a lot of Piastri and
Porsche.
Yeah, Porsche.
Yes,
Porsche and Lundgaard. They are.
Logan Sargent. I'm interested to see if he gets into F2. I want to see him do well.
So I think there will be a lot of competition next year. To be on the safe side, as Nigel said, I'd get into F1, and then back yourself. You can go from there. We'll finally get on to talking about Imola itself, the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, the first ever. There's just one 90-minute practice session, which won't be as interesting given what happened at the Eiffel Grand Prix. But kind of who do you think will be disadvantaged by that the most, or will it be even?
Well,
people who tune in on Friday morning expecting a practice session will be disadvantaged, but I think that no one. Well, the team.
Well, yeah, AlphaTauri did some testing earlier this year at Imola with both their 2018 and 2020 car. So if any team is going to have an advantage, I think it will be them. And I think Gasly could have another impressive weekend if he puts it together, because even though I think even though they only did 100 kilometers, I think it was, that's still quite a lot for what is effectively a new track, because they haven't been there for so long. I think AlphaTauri could benefit Bottas as well. We've seen how good he is early on in the weekend with just one practice session. That might help. But it is a proper track. Can't speak this morning. It's a proper driver's track. So I think Hamilton is still the favourite. But I do think Red Bull will be closer as well. So
do you?
I think it will disadvantage Bottas because Hamilton will still come good in Q3, and it will just be one less session or two less sessions at the top. So that's interesting about Red Bull. Freddie, do you agree with that? Disagree?
I don't think they'll be as close as they were in Nürburgring, where they were actually feasibly on pace, pretty close. Verstappen was feasibly on pace, very close, fighting for pole. I don't think they'll be that close, but I think they'll definitely be a clear step above the midfield still, obviously. They'll be in their normal Red Bull positions. So I think it's going to be sort of a bit of the gap to Mercedes is going to be a little bit bigger than it has been in the past few races, I think, personally. I think there's a bit of a power advantage at Imola that haven't really had so much at Portimao and Nürburgring.
Yeah, perhaps. So it will also be interesting to see how well Ferrari do, whether Portugal was a one-off, because Leclerc was very impressive on Sunday. Ferrari have done some testing. No, not sure Ferrari done some testing, but I think they know the track very well.
They know the track very well.
Yeah.
I
was going to say.
And but we can take Ferrari's upgrades as pretty good due to the fact that Vettel's bad performance still garnered him a point. So, it sounds callous to say that, but that's actually, I think he got 10th with 19 finishes, and he got 10th in Mugello with 12 finishes or 11 finishes, whatever it was. So Ferrari have clearly made a step, and you can see that through their bad driver doing well for the bad driver.
I think, there's a few drivers who've done kind of junior. I think Gasly's one who's done junior racing at Imola because they host some of those events. We'll get some predictions. Who will be your drivers of the day come Sunday?
Andy Rick. I think Renault are going to be strong. I think Portugal was a one-off because with the new track layout, new asphalt, I think it threw off a lot of teams, and we didn't see the true performance of Renault and things like that. I think Ferrari benefited from the weird conditions. So I think Renault will be back on form this weekend. So, Renault and AlphaTauri are the teams to look out for me.
I do like that pick. Freddie's looking.
Norris.
I'll go Leclerc.
Yeah,
that's a good call.
Always
Maybe Raikkonen.
Yes,
Raikkonen's the only one who's done a Grand Prix there.
Luckily, that's not one of the quiz questions. Yeah.
Is this one of your favourite tracks, Freddie? Imola? We know you all like it.
Well, yes, it is one of my favourite tracks. I do.
Is it in your top 10 in the world?
Oh, that's a whole podcast in itself. Let's do that. Let's do top 10 tracks in the world for all of us. That'd be an amazing podcast. I'd say it's in my top 10 in the world.
Oh, really?
Top 5?
I don't know. I need to.
So it's your favourite Italian track, yeah?
Well, are you trying to catch me out in some way?
I'm doing an interview here.
That's why I think you're going to try and catch me out.
No, I'm not catching you out. I'll just have to watch your favourite Italian track.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Cool.
Thanks for the interview, Nigel.
No problem. I will say, there's some facts. Ocon, Leclerc, Latifi, Stroll, Verstappen, Grosjean, Kvyat, Russell and Giovinazzi have all raced at Imola. So whether that will help or not sure.
I think the majority of them will have.
Well,
Didn't Hamilton do GP2 there?
Well, no, don't think
No,
he
okay.
did. Yes, nine drivers have raced there out of the 20. Yeah.
Number. It's a number.
Just round out the predictions with race winner and 10th place. Race winner will be Hamilton. Just will.
Yeah, it would be Hamilton and Kvyat will be 10th.
Verstappen first, Albon 10th.
I like that.
I like that. Hamilton first. Magnussen 10th.
Oh, that's nice.
I genuinely will worry about overtaking at this track. I know we were about Mugello and Nürburgring as well, but yeah, it's narrow. There's only one DRS zone, and I'm not sure they're not using the full straight for the DRS. I'm not sure if it will be powerful enough. I think in Portugal it was almost too powerful. But here I think we might see the opposite, and it's not quite powerful enough.
Well, what's important to remember is that the full pit straight now goes from Ravazza all the way to Tamburello, whereas previously there was basically a big chicane, basically two corners in the middle of it, whereas now it's one long straight. So that's going to be interesting to see because that's a very, very different part of the track now compared to what it was 15 years ago when Formula One last was there.
Did the old school nature of Imola, though, I just adore it. It's so good. Having grass and gravel, if you make a mistake, you will be punished. And the fast.
It will be like Mugello, where we're going to have probably quite a few. If GP2, if F2 and F3 were there, I think the races for those would be making a few sponsors question why they're paying for it.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic track, and for anyone who's listening or watching this who hasn't seen it, I'm sure you will love it. It's just as good as Mugello, if not better, especially in qualifying when the cars are on the limit.
There's been a video doing the rounds on social media of Jenson Button's pole lap from 2004, I want to say, in the BAR Honda, and that's on its own, that's an amazing lap, just as a qualifying lap. That was a brilliant lap. It was his first ever pole position, Button. But if you just watch it, it's an amazing lap. It's an amazing lap because it's an amazing track.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see. And obviously, the no Friday running just increases that.
I'm disappointed we're not getting Friday running because I want to see cars on Imola.
I'm not, because I've got a lot of work on and I need a free Friday to get that done.
That's a good point.
I'm quite happy. And I've only just, about 10 minutes ago when we raised it in the podcast, realised that means I'll get a free Friday. So yeah, it's all good for me. We'll finish the podcast off with a quiz. It's 11 questions because I thought of one about 2 minutes ago and added it in, but I don't want to take one out. So here we go. 11 questions, 4 on the Portuguese Grand Prix that's just gone, and then 7 on...
Nigel's dying.
Yeah.
Nigel, are you okay?
Yeah. might be
Give us a thumbs up. He's giving us a thumbs up. That's all right.
Might be a disadvantage too.
It might be just
ability. Okay, so the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix Premiero a Portuguese Grand Prix quiz. Winging it. Yeah, a bit
winging it.
Question: what was greater, the Portuguese qualifying difference between the 2 Red Bull cars or the 2 Ferrari cars?
Freddie.
Which was yes, Freddie.
Ferrari.
Yes, that's correct. By about 200th of a second.
Oh wow.
Ferrari with
is that Leclerc's Q3 time or is it Leclerc's Q2 time?
Leclerc's Q2. So the distance, the gap between Ferraris was
about
0.552.
Yeah.
0.552 and Red Bull was 0.533. So that's 1-0 to Freddie. And
who was heading the Red Bull qualifying, by the way, just to clarify?
The fella from Thailand. I don't know. I can't remember his name. The fella from Thailand.
Prince Bira.
Yeah, that one. Who was the lowest place at the checkered flag? Who was the lowest place driver on the lead lap? Still on
Nigel.
the lead lap. Yes, Nigel.
It was Charles Leclerc.
Yes, it was. Only
On
4
the lead
drivers.
lap. Very good performance as well.
What was the official reason given for Lance Stroll's retirement, other than just
Freddie.
wasn't? Yes, Freddie.
Safety engine.
No.
Nigel.
Yeah.
I think it was floor damage.
Yeah. Okay. It was collision damage
Well,
Yeah, fair enough.
from hitting Norris. So that's 2-1 to Nigel. How many teams finished 2 by 2? So one after the other in the race.
Oh, that's a question.
Freddie.
Yes.
2.
No.
Nigel.
Yes.
1.
No.
Oh.
I'm going to have to do a bit of ad-libbing and saying yes, Nigel. Thank you for
Was
saying
it 3?
yes, it was. It was Renault, Mercedes,
Renault.
and Haas.
Yeah, I knew Haas and Mercedes. Of course, Renault.
Yeah, obviously. So
Yeah.
Nigel takes the 3-1 lead
Damn.
as we go away from Portugal and do a quick hop over the Mediterranean to Imola, even though I don't think it actually would be over the Mediterranean. But anyway, does Imola run clockwise or anti-clockwise?
Ready?
Yeah.
Anti-clockwise.
Yeah.
It's
one of the very
correct.
few circuits that run.
There's been quite a few
anti-clockwise
anti-clockwise
on the
this
calendar.
year, though.
Yeah, there's a few more.
Oh yeah.
It used to just be like Lagos, didn't it?
It's into Lagos and Turkey because Massa in the Hamilton Massa battle, I think Massa always did better at those two. Who won the men's road race in the Cycling World Champions? At
Nigel.
Yes.
Julian Alaphilippe.
Yeah.
To think then, I forgot.
I watched that with you, Adam.
Yeah. No. It was while we were waiting to start recording the podcast.
Yeah, great attack.
At least I didn't make it a tiebreaker.
I'll just
So it's now over it now. Okay, that is 4-2 to Nigel as we go into question 7. Which 2 engine manufacturers are tied for the most races won at Imola?
Freddie.
Yeah.
Ferrari and Mercedes.
No. But you don't
Oh
have
no!
them.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Freddie.
Yes, Freddie.
Ferrari and Renault.
Yeah, that is correct.
Mm.
I think they're both on 8, although I didn't note that down.
That's cool.
Mercedes have not won, or they've won 1 with David Coulthard in 98. Tag have actually won more than Mercedes. So, yeah, big up Luxembourg. That's 4-3 to Nigel. Question 8. Who held the lap record for the first ever F1 race at Imola in 1980?
Nigel?
Who held it? Oh. was going to
Well,
clarify.
yeah, who got
I
it?
really
Yeah.
apologise if this is wrong, but is it Gilles Villeneuve? I'm hoping he was still alive. No,
Yeah, he was.
It wasn't him. Apparently, he is still alive. He was still alive, but it's not.
He died in 82.
Yeah.
Freddie,
Yes, Freddie.
Carlos Reutemann.
No.
Freddie.
Nigel
No, you had Nigel first.
Jones,
Are you going to give a first name or?
Alan,
Yeah,
I was about to say that one.
not Nigel Jones.
Williams.
Yeah. Who's it, wasn't he? That's 5.
It's his championship year.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then it was PK next year. And then Keke. Good old Keke. What linked Emilia Romagna and Derbyshire?
Freddie,
Yes.
they're on Earth.
No.
Damn, are they not?
No.
They both got the same amount of letters in the. No, they don't.
It's a kind of geographical feature that they both got.
Freddie,
That might not actually help. Yes, Freddie.
I know nothing about both these places. They have mountains,
Close.
hills,
Might
River,
give half a point.
forest,
Peak District.
and a
I mean,
high
you're
up,
closer.
both above 3,000 metres of altitude. No,
They both have national parks.
It's the Pennines, the hills in Derbyshire or in the Peak District of the Pennines, and in Emilia Romagna it's the Apennines, which I quite like, even if it's a difficult question. Give Freddie half a point for getting that. So it's Nigel's winning 5 to 3.5. Freddie needs to get both of these questions to win.
The pressure's on.
This question was a bit hard to word, but if Lewis Hamilton wins this week, or George Russell or Lando Norris, it will be what number win for Great Britain at Imola?
Freddie.
Yes.
3rd.
No.
Nigel, 6th.
No.
Just keep taking turns, Freddie, at guessing a number.
Yeah, Freddie. 4th.
No.
8th.
No. Oh, which way does he go?
Freddie 5th.
Yes, that is correct.
So what we've got? Coulthard in 98, Mansell
Yep.
presumably 92 and 91. What's the other one? Did Mansell get another?
Hill 95.
Hill, of course.
I didn't realise that I gave away the. Oh no, I didn't mean to. But then when you mentioned Mercedes, and I gave it away there by mistake.
Oh, that's right.
Nigel's winning for 5, 4.5.
Oh,
as we go into the
become
final
relatively
question.
close.
Yeah. How did Imola feature in Top Gear?
Freddie.
I think 2012. Yes, Freddie.
They went there at the end of the episode, the Italian Rotary episode, with the McLaren and the Noble and the Ferrari.
Oh!
Lamborghini!
Oh, no,
It was a Lamborghini!
no.
It was a Lamborghini! It was a Lamborghini! It was a Lamborghini! They went there and then they had the final challenge there, and they had Bunga Bunga Stig doing a lap in the 458 because that's why they were there. They had the lap in the 458 and they had to match the time of that. And Hammond went off in the gravel.
Yeah. There was, for the listeners,
Also,
the Zoom call recording cut out as Freddie started to say the answer. I think it was the final challenge of the Noble, and then it cut out. But yeah, I'll take his word that he did know that.
It was a Lamborghini Aventador.
Aventador, and a Noble.
Was it M600?
Yeah, M600.
Oh.
I had it on the number plate, whatever. If you want to check, you can go and do that.
Yeah, go. But that means that Freddie wins the quiz by 5.5 points to 5.
Back on top. I've missed this.
Just squeaked through there to take the win with a half Pennine's knowledge.
I haven't won a quiz since I turned 21.
No. You turned 21 in March, so it's a bit
exactly.
But that wraps up everything for this week's podcast, the preview podcast. We will be back on Sunday or hopefully Sunday, with post-race analysis and all the biggest stories that have broke since now. But yeah, so in the meantime, obviously check out our Twitters, which we mentioned at the start, or on Spotify and Acast. And yeah, we will see you next time. Bye.